My name is Xane Daniel, and I'm very happy to be here. I'm excited to be here because I really do love doing these events and getting to know everybody, and talking about the comic book, which is obviously a passion of mine. I have a comic book downstairs called Righteous. But more than that, I really like to do the activations that I do. And so what we're going to be doing today is something called a soul essence activation. I work with the Hathors, which is an extra-dimensional group very similar to the Pleiadians. They were here on Earth during the ancient Egyptian times, the hieroglyphs, and I was here at that time as well, incarnated among them. And this is where I learned how to do this particular modality. And what this modality is we're going to be bringing forward the best versions of your past incarnations into your current incarnation, especially as it relates to your life's purpose. And we do this through the energy centers of the body, and today we're going to be doing it through the chakras. These are beautiful, perfect energy centers that carry a lot of energy and a lot of meaning to your life. So that works exceptionally well. And so we'll do that at the very end. Before that, we're also going to do a crystal activation. And with a crystal activation, what we're doing is and I always say we, right? Because it's not just me. I'm working with the Hathors, and we're working together to do this. So what we're doing is we're bringing the consciousness of the crystal more in line with your consciousness. And we're also changing the crystal's purpose so that it matches your own. And the other thing that you will find interesting about it is, in many cases, the crystal actually physically changes. And that's the other reason why I thought it would be great for everybody to, of course, have one so you could witness this happening. So the reason that I do all of this is because my purpose and my mission here is to help awaken people as much as possible. And this became clear to me and reinforced when, for the first time, I had an opportunity to work with Veronica Avalon, who is a channel of the ninth dimensional Pleiadians. And during our very first conversation where she brought the Pleiadians in, they said, "Oh, it's Awakener. We're so glad to see you. We're so glad you're here. And you bring this awakening technology with you to all the different worlds and all the different lifetimes that you've been in." So, I was blown away by this because I was still kind of learning how all of this stuff worked. I spent my first 40 years, as a science-based atheist who worked in the video game industry and did not believe that any of this was possible and thought it was all crazy and hogwash. So this, as part of my journey, was huge and important for me to kind of have that trust in this, crazy, in my mind at the time, reality. And that's the other thing that's amazing about it. And so I think a lot about awakening because it is part of my mission. And there are lots of different kinds of stages of awakening. And, even the Matrix kind of got us all started whenever that came out a few years ago, 10 years ago, 12 years ago, something like that. And what's great about that is it kind of helped wake us up to the fact that we were kind of following this particular society's rules, and we weren't really challenging those rules very much. But that's just one element of it. We can look at politics, and we can wake up from the idea that politicians aren't really looking out for us at all. They're looking out for themselves. We can wake up to the idea that the corporate world, that corporations are in it for themselves also, and that they're happy to harm their customers as long as it doesn't cost them on the bottom line. We can be awakened to the idea that our capitalist society is an incentive program, incentivizing us to do things for ourselves and only for ourselves, to take care of our families, of our nuclear families in many cases, and no one else, and everybody else is on for their own. So those are wonderful things to wake up to, but that's just the beginning. And really what I want people to wake up to is unconditional love. and the ability and the understanding that everyone is deserving of unconditional love. Everything, every plant, every animal, every microorganism, and every human being, including the ones that really drive us nuts. Not mentioning any names.
Those ones need it more.
Right, they do. They need it more. Thank you. That is exactly right. Yeah, I want to go off on a side, but I don't have that much time, so I don't want to do that. But you're so right. And the other thing I want people to awaken to is the idea that helping others is a beautiful experience. So much of the time that we spend, obviously, I was just talking about, we're spending making the money for ourselves and for our families, and we're not necessarily looking out for other people because we feel like we don't necessarily have time to do that. But the fact is that we actually do have time to do that. And the dopamine response that we get from helping others is so much bigger and so much deeper and so much more rewarding than the one that we get when somebody likes our post on Instagram or when we get some news about the thing that we're excited about, the next Marvel movie or whatever it is. I want people to awaken to the fact that everyone in this room is perfect, that you are all perfect. And you have never made a mistake in your entire life. And you will never make another mistake in your entire life. And everything that you have done has gotten you to exactly where you're sitting right now. So congratulations, you did it. I want people to awaken to the idea that they don't have to suffer anymore. There's no reason for that suffering. There's no reason for fear. That there are solutions to all the problems that we have. Our mental problems, our physical problems, and the problems that our loved ones face. And this event is a perfect example of ways to do that. I'm sure you've met some people downstairs that could help you or help people that you know in interesting and beautiful ways that you're not going to get anywhere else. So I highly encourage you, if you felt something when you talk to somebody, go back to them and consider investing in yourself through them. And that is most certainly what I do. And one of the things that I do other than the soul essence activation is I focus on people's problems and that imbalance of the right hemisphere and the left hemisphere and figuring out ways to get over those sufferings. So there's just so many options, and I highly encourage everybody to do that. So, as I started to talk about, my story is simply that I grew up in this science-based family and that everybody in that family did not consider religion wasn't even an option or that spirituality actually existed. And so we looked at that spirituality as complete silliness, and we just did not give it any attention whatsoever. We thought that science kind of had it all figured out. And so I went through life with that perspective, and I worked in the video game industry for 22 years as a producer, and I worked for companies, for one company, but we did work for all the major companies. So I was working with Microsoft and Facebook and all these major corporations. And I realized that I was working on projects that were not helping society whatsoever. I was working on Saints Row, which is one of those titles where one of the good strategies is to run over a hooker with your car so that you can get your money back, right? Or I worked on Mortal Kombat 10, which is trying to be as absolutely brutal as possible. So much so, we discovered this brutality when we were a little late on delivering one of the versions of the title, and we received death threats to our company for being 4 hours late on releasing the title. And so, even I remember that our managers at the time were so confused, like, why would people death threat our company for this? And it's like, well, this video game is all about how brutal we can make this experience for players. So no surprise that they would feel this way. And so that sort of thing really started to wake me up to the idea that I was not doing things to help society, I was doing things to harm society. And so it made it much easier when the day came that I left that very well-paying, cushy kind of job in the video game industry that I'd been doing for so long. And one of the other reasons that I did that is because I had an ayahuasca experience about 5 or 6 years ago. And that is exactly what I needed because, of course, I completely didn't believe in any of this, like I've said 3 or 4 times now. But at that moment, I had an opportunity to speak to an entity in my head that was definitely not me. And it used language and it used a voice that I had never heard before. And so I knew that it couldn't be me. And I discovered that even after I had had that experience, I could continue to speak to that voice for weeks, months, and years later. And it was through that experience, and for a while it was kind of a sideshow fun thing with my friends. Hey, I can talk to the voice. You guys have any questions? And they would ask me questions, and I'd get some sort of interesting answer, and they'd be like, wow, how did you know that? Like, that's not possible, is it? But there was an experience that went from just being a fun sideshow thing to something really serious and really meaningful. And it came in the form of my girlfriend at the time. Her mother was in hospice, and we were all worried that we had made bad medical decisions for her. We thought maybe we could have given her a little bit better quality of life or a little bit extra time. And we realized that we just felt guilty about it. We didn't realize anything at that point. We just felt guilty. And her brother turned to me and said, why don't you ask the voice? And this is the first time that I had ever considered this voice being anything more than just something fun to do. And when it said, you did everything you did with love, we all immediately just felt so much better. So it was through these sorts of experiences that it woke me to the idea that, okay, there is so much more going on here, and I can't wait to explore it and see. So the first thing that I would like to do for everybody is I would like for you to pull out that crystal and take a very hard look at it. Think about the characteristics of it. What are the colors? What are the tones? What are the lines? What are the striata? What are the cracks? How cloudy is it? How clear is it? Anything that you can to kind of commit the look of that crystal to your mind. Because in many cases, when we do this activation, they physically change. The other thing that I want you to do then is I want you to hold the crystal close, covered in your hands, close your eyes, and feel the energy that comes off of it. Feel whether it's a pulse or a tingle or whatever it is that you feel. And I'll be silent for a moment while you do that. And then I would like for you to ask that crystal a question. If you commonly talk to your crystals, then you know what your conversations are generally like. But if you don't normally, then just simply ask it, would you like to be activated by Xane today? And see what kind of response you get. And if you didn't get a response, that's okay. Because what we're about to do is we're going to shift the crystal's consciousness more in line with yours, so you'll be able to experience it easier. Okay. So this will work for those that are watching at home on YouTube as well. So I would like for you to just go ahead and you can either close your eyes and observe the crystal through the experience of touching it, or you can have your eyes open and actually look at the crystal and see if it changes in front of your eyes. This will be a little bit of a loud, I'll be ejecting a loud sound in a moment. Awaken! And so now take a moment to see if you feel a difference in the crystal in your hands. Maybe try asking it another question. Seeing if it responds more quickly this time. And then finally, why don't you go ahead and open your eyes and take a look at it. Examine it. See if you notice any differences from what you saw before.
I got smaller. Like legitimately, I can tell because of the binding around.
It got smaller. Wow.
Smaller.
So the reason that they physically change is because we have all shifted to a new timeline. In this new timeline, this crystal is different than it was in the previous timeline. And we've done a lot of study and research on this. Well, not a lot, but a little bit of study and a little bit of research on this, where we have taken video equipment and tried to record this experience. And what happens is that when you go to play the video back, the crystal always looks the way that it had after the transformation. And so at first we thought, like, what the heck is going on there? Like, why isn't it showing up in the camera? And that's because the camera, everything shifted, or we shifted into a new timeline, right? So the camera has always been there looking at that crystal in the same way that it's always looked at it. So you can't actually see it through physical evidence, unfortunately. And as a science-based person, it drives me nuts that you can't find that. But I think that it's really amazing because you can look at any experience in your life, and if it was an extreme kind of spiritual experience, you might be able to look back or take a look at your crystal and see if it changed. And if it changed, that means you shifted timelines during that experience. So now we're in a timeline where that crystal is more aligned with your purpose and your consciousness. So the other thing that I really got into and got excited about during my transformation is actually writing and creating a comic book. My purpose was to create a comic book or create a story that would help people kind of awaken. And the idea was that it's written for a mass market audience. It's not necessarily written for this audience because we are already in various states of awakening, right? But that external audience is not. And so it's a little bit like the movie Liar, Liar with Jim Carrey, where he has that supernatural experience occur that changes him so that he can't lie anymore. The same kind of idea, but this time it's about a greedy corporate analyst who is visited by a being of light, and it touches him on the forehead, and it changes him so that he can only help other people and he can't make money for himself anymore. And during his process of realizing that he's now completely incompatible with society, he also discovers that every time he helps someone, they get it too. So it's my way of spreading enlightenment through a way that hopefully people won't necessarily realize that they're being awakened and enlightened. It's a little tricky on my part, I realize, but their higher selves signed up for it, so it's okay. So I do have a booth downstairs where I'm selling the comic. If you know of anybody that would like to have that kind of awakening, or maybe they don't even realize they'd like to have that awakening, check it out. All right, so just like that last one was a little bit loud, this is going to be loud the entire time because I'm working with the Hathors. And if you're at all familiar with the Hathors, they love to do lots of verbal and tonal work. And so I'm going to be doing lots of tones, and at times it will be very loud. So go ahead and get into a comfortable position, probably feet flat on the floor. And again, be ready, because it's going to be interesting. It's a little bit like a meditation, but at the same time, as soon as you get calm and relaxed, then I'm all of a sudden over here yelling and screaming at you. So be prepared for that. Don't be surprised. I want you to just go ahead and take a nice big deep breath and settle into your chair. Feel the comfort of the room, the energy of each other. And there will be one piece of instruction that I will give you throughout this, and that will be, I will occasionally say, breath in. And when I say breath in, that I want you to join me on a big, deep breath where you hold it at the very top of the breath and you wait for me to say the word awaken, just like I did with the crystal. So I'd like to ask the Hathors and all the spirit guides of all the wonderful people in this room to participate in this soul essence activation, and the spirit guides of the people that are watching at home on YouTube to help us with this. To begin, I want to open up a connection between all of us as one collective, a human collective, for the next 20 minutes. When I'm not speaking, just go ahead and become breath aware. Breath in. Awaken. Beautiful. We're going to be working on the chakras. And we're starting with the root chakra. This is located at the base of the spine. It has everything to do with your tribe, your origins, your survival, and your survival fears. Breath in. Awaken. Oh, beautiful. I receive great feedback as we do this, as we open each chakra, and I've received wonderful feedback already. Next is the sacral chakra. This has to do with your creativity, your relationships, romantic relationships, money. Breath in. Awaken. Good. The sounds that I make are told to me by the Hathors as I go through each chakra. The solar plexus, located just below the rib cage. So your connection to your ego, your self-worth. Your self-esteem, and the true you. I'd like for everyone, every once in a while they give me something to visualize. I'd like for everyone to visualize a planet. We're somewhat close to the planet, so we can only see kind of the top portion of it. We're in space, though. We see the beautiful stars, some nebula, and we're seeing a sun rising over the crest of the planet. And I want you to keep that visual in your mind as we do the solar plexus. Breath in. Awaken. I would like for everyone to now take their energy field and feel that energy moving through the lower 3 chakras. I want you to take your energy field and stretch it down through the floor, through the next floor, and into the surface of the earth. You should be able to feel the grounding of the earth as it moves up through those lower 3 chakras, not dissimilar to being barefoot. That exchange of negative ions. The heart chakra. Obviously, this has to do with love, unconditional love, love for self, love for all. Love all, and love is all that you will see. Please picture your heart chakra rotating in your chest, sideways rotating like looking at a hurricane from space. Slowly rotating. And I'm going to make a sound, and when I make this sound, I want you to picture that heart chakra increasing in size. And this first time, I want you to picture it increasing the size of your entire body. It's just going to be a simple sound, so it's going to go quickly as it jumps from its current size to whoosh, the size of your body. We're going to do that again. This time, I want you to picture everyone's heart chakras in the room right now, as they are all the size of their bodies. And what we're going to do is when I make this sound the next time, all the chakras, all the heart chakras are going to merge into one, the size of this room. You can see them slowly, see it slowly rotating, encompassing everyone, loving everyone that it touches. And now our giant heart chakra is going to get even bigger. Our unified heart chakra is going to get as big as this building on the next one. And now all the people below, they're selling their wares and people buying them and being happy and loving each other and loving to see each other, we're affecting their lives. And there's a nursing home attached to this building. And we're affecting their lives as well. We're going to jump one more time. This time we're going to be the size of Chicago and all the suburbs. Why not? It's our heart chakra. We can love all. And now all the people in the surrounding area are a part of our massive and beautiful heart chakra. And we're just going to leave that there. There's no reason to bring it back down to size. It should always be that big. It should always be bigger. And if we had more time, we'd make it even bigger. But you can do that on your own. Breath in. Awaken! The throat chakra. Every once in a while this happens. Today's one of those days. I would like for everyone to participate with me in the tone that I'm going to make. So we're going to make a cacophony of throat chakra tone. And if you can't keep up with me for as long as I do, that's okay. You can take a deep breath and resume. This is our self-expression. It's time to self-express. Beautiful. Breath in. Awaken! Perfect. You guys are doing great. The third eye chakra. I love the third eye chakra because it's a big one for helping me help people with emotional distress, because the ability to observe yourself is so powerful, and to not just be yourself, but to be your higher self, observing yourself. So you have opportunities when you get angry to look at yourself and say, do I really need to be this way? Or, well, look at that. Isn't that interesting? Look how angry he is. Or when you're so upset and crying and miserable, well, look at that. Isn't that interesting? That's what that feels like. And to be able to put yourself into that position is incredibly healing. And so the third eye is so good for that. And so when we do this one, I would like for you to picture an eye floating in the darkness. This eye is the eye of your higher self observing you. Right now, you're observing that eye. But as I do this tone, I want you to shift your perspective so that you are observing yourself through that eye. And the version of you that's sitting in that chair is just your vessel. Oh! Breath in. Awaken. Beautiful. And now as you're feeling the energy flow moving through your lower 6 chakras, you might feel a little bit of tightness on the top of your head as all that energy is trying to come all the way through. For some of you, you've never experienced anything quite like this before, so it's a little bit tighter. But before we do that, I would like for you to once again take your energy field and ground it with the surface of the earth. Down through the floor, down through the next floor, and into the ground. Feel that negative ion exchange between you and Mother Gaia. She is offering to heal you, and you are offering to heal her. We all need it. The crown chakra is our connection to the divine. Our higher self, all the other collectives and everything, when they speak to us, that has to come through there. So we really want to pop the top off this one. Breath in. Awaken. And now for some of you, we may have removed some negative entities that were uninvited guests, and so I'm going to go ahead quickly and activate the 8th chakra, which is your halo chakra, which will protect you. Breath in. Awaken! Good. I have to do another tone. There's one more I would like to do. For those of you who have not discovered your spiritual gifts, you have them. And I would like to do an activation to release those. And for those who already have discovered their spiritual gifts, I would like to do an activation to enhance those. Breath in. Awaken! Oh, that was a good one. Oh boy, yeah, feeling good feedback from that. Beautiful. Before we end this, I would like for you to picture a column of light that is moving from the earth through your line of chakras, out the top of your head, and in and up through the clouds to the rest of the universe, shining your light on all the rest of the universe, and bringing energy back down to the earth through you. I would like to thank the Hathors and all the wonderful spirit guides and higher selves that participated in this soul essence activation. And when everybody in this room and those watching at home, when you realize and when you believe and you know that you are perfect, exactly as you are, you may open your eyes.
Spiritual gifts. I didn't open my eyes, but I saw a white flash.
I did too.
So I just wanted to thank you.
Very good.
I
I'm
felt it, saw it.
so happy to hear that. Yes. Thank you very much. Yeah. So for those watching at home, she saw a white flash when we did the awakening of their spiritual gifts. And somebody else confirmed that as well. Thank you. Any other questions?
Is it typical to get really warm?
It is. The question is it typical to get very warm? Yes, that is very normal. There's all kinds of different things that will happen. Many of you may have trouble sleeping tonight as a result of this, as your body is adjusting to all this energy. Sometimes it can be a couple of nights. Definitely, yes, drink lots of water and meditate and be.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right. Thank you, everyone.